Welcome to Kimmel's Irish Pub. Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. So this is essentially about the person who created Wonder Woman. He's a psychologist, and he's Professor Marston, and he has a wife and a mistress. And somehow, through his relationships with the two of them, he develops the superhero Wonder Woman and all the comics that follow. So this is the background of it, and I'm assuming, I don't know anything more than what I've told you. I'm just assuming that he takes characteristics from both his mistress and his wife and builds Wonder Woman as we know her today. So, I don't know. Should be interesting. I like superhero movies. I know this isn't a superhero movie, but it's more of an origin story, if you will. So, I'll get into it, an hour and 48 minutes, and I'll check back in and let you know a little better synopsis of what the movie's really about, rather than what you read in IMDb. Speaking of IMDb, I'll give you the rating on that one, 7.1. I'll check out Rotten Tomatoes at the first check-in, so you're not waiting around. So, stick around. I'll be back in a little bit. Hey everybody, time for a quick check-in. We're watching Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. And I'm getting really good at this because I just picked this moment to stop it, and there's 54 minutes and 15 seconds left. Or, I'm sorry, we're at the 54 seconds and 15 second mark. There's actually 54 minutes and 12 seconds left in the movie. I was 3 seconds away from the halfway point. Just luck of the draw there. But let's talk about some numbers that I promised you. Rotten Tomatoes has the critics at 87 and the users at 79. And the other thing I forgot to mention is who's in this. So Luke Evans, he plays William, the professor. And Rebecca Hall plays his wife, Elizabeth. And then Bella Heathcote plays Olive. So essentially what we've learned so far is he is a professor of psychology for a sister school of Harvard, but he's considered a Harvard professor. And he's teaching a class full of girls psychology, and he's going through a lot of his theories. And he asks for a teacher's assistant. And at this point, this is where Olive signs up to be his teacher's assistant. They're doing some psychological tests, and pretty much watching her and her day-to-day interactions is part of it. And she's helping with, their work. But the bottom line, what ends up happening is all three of them fall in love with each other. So initially he falls in love with her, then she falls in love with Elizabeth, his wife, and they're already married, so William and Elizabeth are married. Obviously they're in love. And then, so all three of them start loving each other, and they now have developed a relationship. So the first 54 minutes is all about that. Some side note is that she was engaged during this, but then broke it off just recently. Some other things to mention, that either him and his wife, I guess, are the inventors of the lie detector. So that comes out. That's kind of how they reveal they're developing the lie detector, and they're testing it, and that's how they reveal that everybody's in love with each other. They start testing it on each other. And then, they build a relationship, the three of them. But it's interesting that they created the lie detector test because of the golden lasso that, makes people tell the truth. I thought that's pretty neat, the connection there. Also, I guess the underlining thing, what the whole thing is, it's more of a flashback. He's being not interrogated, I guess questioned by some leaders for a youth group. I'm not exactly sure. They said it, I didn't catch it. I'll pay a little bit more attention, but it's like a panel of people questioning him about his writings of Wonder Woman, because they say, there's like S&M in it, there's homosexuality, and all these different things that are coming out through the comics that he wrote. And so they're questioning if it's ethical or not to put these comic books out there. And as he's defending himself, they're looking back at the relationship between his wife and his mistress, which he kind of says together they make the perfect woman. And I think that is Wonder Woman. So we're not that far yet. It took a long time to develop this. So that was one thing. I thought it was a little slow developing. You knew what was going to happen. It just took a while to get there. So I think it's going to start to pick up now, and we're going to really see how he develops Wonder Woman. Hopefully, anyway. So I'll check back in, let you know how it's going. Probably give you some more information, at least my rating on it. So stick around. I'll be back. Hey everybody, we're at the credits here, and some other things I quickly want to mention. This takes place in 1930, so it was in 1942, I think, when Wonder Woman comic was initially created, and this is the thought process behind how she was created. And it's all about, this movie's more about the love triangle than actually Wonder Woman, but essentially I guess maybe it is because that's how he developed the character between these two women. But what I found interesting about this was, even in today's day and age, despite, not even talking about 1930s when this was happening, the three of them were in a love triangle, as I've said many, many times. And you could think about all the problems that could happen with that. And they're not the type of problems that happen in their relationship. I would think that in a love triangle that there'd be a lot of jealousy going back and forth, and that would probably cause the relationship to dissolve at some point. But that's not the case here. Other things come into factor, like things that get out in the public and things like that. But real quick to jump back in after I last left you, I know this is kind of all over the place, but I wanted to mention also. So they were developing this relationship while they were both professors, or at least he was a professor. I think she worked for the college too. It was Radcliffe, which is a sister college of Harvard, and she was a student in his class, and he was assistant. They developed a relationship. Well, of course, they get caught, so they get fired for being, professors of essentially Harvard, and she also gets pregnant. So again, you can think about, wow, what's that going to do to that little love thing that they got going on there? But they end up staying together and having multiple kids together. It looked like 4 maybe. I don't know. And it's from two different mothers. It's like 2 and 2 or something like that. I don't know. That's not fully played out, but they do end up living together and continuing to have lives with each other. So although they can't go back to being professors, they have to find other professions. And that's where he starts to think about, he's writing other books, and he comes up with the idea for Wonder Woman. And he uses it to convey his theories that he had from psychology, and that's all in there. And I don't want to get into all that, but that's what this movie is essentially about. I didn't know that much of a history of how Wonder Woman was developed, and as in their relationship, there's a lot of bondage and things like that, and he brings that into the comic, which is why Connie Britt's character, that's the one who's interrogating him, wants to take it off the shelves, essentially, because it's not really good for kids. So, a lot of interesting thing here. The movie for me was, although interesting, dry. They developed a lot of it, and it took a long time to develop everything, and I don't know. It was good, not great, more interesting than it was enjoyable to watch. I don't know. But Wonder Woman remains the most popular woman superhero of all time. I think I knew that. And this was the story behind it, and this is how she was developed. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that, go ahead and check it out. But, be aware it's more of fact-finding, or, this is all based on a true story. I'm not sure if I said that. And at the end, they have the words that says what happens after all this ends, which I love, and then some pictures as well. So they show them doing a lie detector and stuff. So somewhat interesting. I'm glad I watched it. I am probably gonna give it a 7. Not a 6. Probably a 7. A low 7. Because of those reasons. So let me know if you check it out. I'd love to hear from you. And thanks for tuning in. Kimmel's Irish Pub.